right, recording this 6/28, the 30th of June. Me and Nolan back on the pod, but today we have a special guest today. Sam. Sam is on the podcast, contributor for the Strickland, and also he has his own pod. You guys should go check that out. But a question that I always ask the guest is this past Knicks season has been like really joyful for me and Nolan to talk about when we got together. Sam, how do you feel about the Knicks season altogether, overall?
Thanks for having me. And I mean, I felt like it was a overall a success. I mean, going into the season, my expectations were super low, especially coming off the season that we had previously. And I just didn't have any expectations. So to come into it with no expectations and be surprised the way I was with being able to get to the playoffs and have home court, I mean, and on top of that, just having our young guys contribute as well. I felt like overall it was just a overwhelming success.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the Knicks had an amazing season. Randall really emerged when we was ready to kick him out. That was kind of a funny thing. And Obi, we drafted Obi for his replacement, and the emergence of Randall. RJ, his shooting, interesting to see how he develops in the future. Quickly, proven to be one of the steals of the draft. Uh, Interesting to see if he continues as a predominantly a bench player, or does he up his skills and become a starter. It's going to be interesting to see. Tibbs during the ESPN combine, he was pretty much saying during a short little interview how he was saying how he needed, like, the Knicks are pretty much looking for wings and shooters to add to the depth of the Knicks and to include with free agency. What are some guys that you've been looking at in the draft? During this time, a lot of basketball junkies are really really into the prospects nowadays. What are some guys that you have your eyes on that could contribute to the Knicks season? Hopefully. Hello. Oh, and he is gone.
Oh shit.
Prospects. Some of the prospects that I've been, because I haven't been too much into draft stuff because I'm still following the playoffs pretty intently. But some of the draft prospects I'm intrigued by, at least, is Trey Murphy the third from Virginia, 6'9" wing. Basically like a 3-and-D guy, but he's like, some people have described him as like Mikal Bridges, but like with a little more bounce, which I like wings that can shoot and defend, and attack closeouts. And then some other guys I've looked at are like Trey Mann.
I like Trey Mann.
Yeah, he's pretty good, and he's
fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, he's not like what we look for in a guard mainly as a Knicks fan, with like we're trying to look for like a point guard or like a primary, but like having someone out there on the wings with RJ can like really help bolster that scoring that we need.
Shot creation even.
Yeah, exactly. Like we that's something that we saw in the playoffs. Like we just need more shot creation out there, and we just can't rely on Randall all the time to like create shots for everyone else.
Right.
But yeah, and then also in the point guards, I mean, Sharif Cooper's been a big name amongst Knicks Twitter. A lot of people are for it. Some people are against it because like he's a smaller guard who can't really shoot or hasn't shown enough consistency with shooting, but his playmaking is like unreal.
You seen his workout? That workout went viral.
Yeah, I saw it. It was a good workout, and the shot looks like it's improved a bit. I mean, he still looks like he's throwing it a little bit upwards, but like I don't know, maybe he's still gonna keep tweaking and working on it. But I mean, that's the most concerning part for me with guard prospects is, can they shoot? Because we already dealt with enough lack of shooting at the starting point guard spot this past year with number 6. So
yeah. Nola, what you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I like all those players you said. I mean, someone else I would look at a little bit would maybe be Zaire Williams, is probably in that range a little bit. I think he fits, just in terms of like a wing that can shoot. And probably someone like, if you could trade up, like, I mean, I've told you this before, Hamza, but just I'm in love with Moses Moody's game. If you could somehow get up that high, if he drops to like 12 to the Spurs or something, maybe But I mean,
You seen this picture with the wingspan on the doorway?
no, I didn't see
You
that.
didn't see that, dude. He's covering the whole doorway with his hand.
No, but he really reminds me of like a Joe Johnson type player.
Yeah,
It's like his two-way ability and the fact that he can shoot from the outside. I know it might be a little. You'd probably have to move RJ to the 2 then, or one of those 2 at the 2. But I mean, I think you could kind of figure that out.
yeah,
But
for
I
sure.
don't. I really don't think that's. I don't think he's going to be there when the Knicks draft unless they trade up though. So
Yeah, interesting. He said Troy Murphy the third because he's shooting 43% from three, 92% from the free throw line, which is a good indicator. You know, they're shooting a high percentage from the free throw line. Good indication, you know, how well he'll shoot in the next level. Um, doesn't get to the line as often, which is, you know, a little concern with a wing, but you know, a lot of guys had that concern, you know, Mikal, a lot of those guys, 3-and-D guys, they don't get to the line as much in college, but it translates in the NBA. You know, of course, like Josh Christopher, Corey Kispert. I was looking at a few mock drives. You know, Corey Kispert looks like he might go with the bottom lottery. Might have to trade up if the Knicks were looking at him. He fits that mold a lot. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see where they're going to draft. 19 and 21, and then you know the 30. I believe it was 32, right? They got 32, so it's gonna
Yeah.
be like a late first rounder. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do.
someone going late that I was looking at was actually. I mean, it'd be like the later rounds, like maybe like 58 if we hold on to that or whatever that pick is. And I think we have one of the 50s. But I saw they interviewed him was that Miles McBride from West Virginia.
Yeah.
Like I said, he's probably going to go in the second round, but I think he's a versatile scorer and he can finish really well for his size and still can like shoot good mid range. I think he shot 41% from the 3 the last year. So, I mean, it's not exactly, you know, like your plan A or anything, but if he's still on the board when you're picking that late, he's definitely worth a flyer.
And you brought up Zaire, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting because he had a pretty disappointing year in Stanford. I believe he was like 6 in the ESPN rankings of prospects going into the college year, but he had a disappointing year at Stanford. I think he might be in that range at 19.
I think, yeah. No, I've seen a few mock drafts with him going to us. So, I mean, he can shoot the ball really well and then has like great defensive ability on the perimeter and is like one of the purest shots I think I've seen from all the draft prospects that I've been looking at.
Sam, anything like during the draft lottery that surprised you? You know, the Warriors got 2 picks, the Magic got 2 picks. Uh, you know, Detroit got the first pick. Looks like they're gonna go with Cade. Anything surprised you? Anything you want to talk about of the lottery?
One thing that surprised me, well, it's not even really surprising. One thing that kind of like pissed me off was Cleveland getting into the top 3. I mean, I once I saw that they got into the top 4, I was scared that they were going to get another number 1 pick because they had that whole stretch where they went like 3 out of 4 years they got number 1, even though they picked like Anthony Bennett, one of those picks. I mean, you're still gifting Cleveland another number 1 pick. And Toronto moving into the top 4 was kind of surprising too. I guess Adam Silver kind of paid them back for letting them play in Tampa this whole year, so he kind of repaid them for that. But yeah, I mean, it kind of went the way I thought it would go. I expected the Wolves pick to end up with the Warriors, and I expected the Bulls to get um the Bulls to have their pick with Orlando. I know Houston Rockets fans were probably scared that their pick was gonna go to OKC because I think if it dropped out of the top 4, it would have went to OKC. So that was another thing I was looking for. But yeah, I mean, it kind of went pretty much how I expected it to.
Yeah, a lot of question marks are surrounding Cleveland. What they're gonna do with the pick, because they still got to make a decision on whether they got to pay Colin. You know, they want to keep Garland. They want to, you know, pay Jared Allen after making that trade. Um, gotta see, man. Gotta see. I know Knicks fans talking about Colin Sexton. No, thank you. Please just keep that man away from me, bro. Like, I'm good. I'm straight on that. But yeah. And then Houston, right? See what they're gonna do with the second pick, either Jalen Green or Evan Mobley. They're gonna have to decide. I've heard a lot of people say that, you know, there's not a big disparity between Cade and Evan. It's gonna be, you know, the eye of the beholder, and and the Rockets gonna have to make a choice of either if Mobley and Christian Wood could play together. I don't know. A lot of stuff got to go down. A lot of stuff. I wanted to move on to the Olympics because they finally brought out the final roster, and it's interesting because Love made the roster over Randall, and Jerry Colangelo, the managing director, the father of Brian Colangelo, who did uh, the Embiid stuff. I know you're pretty familiar with that in PA, Nolan, but uh, yeah, pretty much. I guess seniority has a lot of things, had a lot of stuff to do with it. In the 2012 Olympics, he averaged 11 and 8, was their main big man. I would have loved to see Randall in that environment do it because a lot of recruiting goes down in those, in that time. Uh, I don't know. I would have loved him to see him in that environment, play with other superstars in the league. What you thought about that, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big supporter of players going to the Olympics because not only in the past have players improved after going into international play, it just helps players get like more familiar with different roles. Because, like, for example, someone like Randall, he's a primary on the Knicks, but like in Olympic basketball, he would probably be used more to his strengths, where he's like rolling to the rim, or he would probably play like other roles that he's not familiar with, that he didn't play this past year. So it'd help him expand different roles in his game. So that way, when he comes back into the next season, he has more experience in these roles, and then the Knicks can try him out in different areas of the court and stuff like that, and just like run different things. Like you're seeing with RJ in his game yesterday, actually versus Greece. You saw they ran a couple of DHOs for him, getting him driving down to the rim. He showed off a step back three. Like these type of opportunities, they present themselves for players to improve their game, and it's a shame that Randall wasn't invited. They said he was right there, quote unquote, but yeah, I mean, I would have loved to see him in that environment. Usually, these guys they benefit from this tremendously. So it kind of sucks, but he'll have time to work on his game with his own guys. So
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at with it. It was like it was disappointing he didn't get selected, especially over a player like Kevin Love, who I just genuinely feel like doesn't really deserve it. But the fact that he led the league in minutes this year, and just it's I don't know, it just seems like it's so close to him just getting off playing so many games, so many minutes, that like as much as I'd love to see him out there recruiting and everything and getting more experience with the USA team, I'm kind of fine sitting back and letting him do his thing like he did last season and not really like taking much of a toll on his body. Then again, I don't think he really would have been playing like major minutes on the Olympics either. So I don't know. I'm not as bummed out about it as some Knicks fans, but I mean, it's definitely still feels like kind of a slight to Randall, and I feel like he got like the short end of the stick there.
Yeah, it's yeah, I was a little upset. I'm not gonna lie. I was one of those guys like, damn, they really didn't give him the nod. Like Kevin Love hasn't played, and like, bro, it feels like Kevin Love hasn't played basketball since like the last time the Cavs were in the final. This is the last time he stepped on a meaningful game.
The only time you see him on like ESPN is when he does like some petty shit, like throwing the ball and just like
yeah, he's pouting. Like
yeah. It's like how are you gonna reward that over Randall, who played like all NBA, most improved player, played every game but one, like led the league in minutes. I don't know. It just seemed like he should have got in over Love for sure.
No, for sure. And it's gonna be interesting to see how Love plays because I know a lot of executives, especially like on winning teams, they're gonna be looking at him to see if he can still move his feet, if he can still shoot the three, if he can still play with other elite players on a high level, and if he can still play on an elite level, right? Because like Cavs are definitely looking to get rid of his contract by any means. They're not trying to see the back end of that contract. I don't even understand why they paid him. It was already the end of the LeBron era.
I
I don't
don't
know.
understand that.
I don't know, bro. A couple of key guys that are on the Team USA roster: Durant, Booker, Levine, Tatum, Beal. Definitely a way better roster than we put out last time when we lost to France, right? We had like Mitchell, we had a young Tatum, we had a whole bunch of young guys, and not up to par to this roster particularly. Looks like Durant's gonna be like the leader of this group, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Talking about coaching changes, We were talking about coaching stuff last episode, and it seems like Rick Carlisle got his job in Indy. It's a funny thing because when we had Swin on, you know how Swin hates Karis LeVert, and I like Karis LeVert's game. I'm not gonna lie, and when he was on, I was like giving pretty much him a pep talk on this is starting out, and I wonder what next season what they're gonna do, how they're gonna adjust the roster. I really like Karis LeVert as a primary ball handler and all that, and you could tell he was getting a little annoyed, and yeah, he was getting a little annoyed, but it is what it is. They're gonna have to make a decision. A lot of injuries throughout that roster, but I don't know. What you feel about the hires?
I kind of saw it coming. Honestly, it was either Indiana or Milwaukee if like Milwaukee had ended up getting eliminated.
Right.
But it seemed like Rick was on his own timetable and he wanted to like make this change really quickly. Um, the situation in Dallas was like getting extremely out of hand with front office management and all that stuff. And he just wanted to get out of there and wanted to get a new situation as fast as possible. He's familiar with the city. He used to coach there back in the day, so that there's some familiarity there. But yeah, I mean, there's like you said, there's some stuff with their roster that they do have to figure out, like the fit with Sabonis and Turner. They got to make a decision, I think, of whether they want to go forward with one or the other. And there were some rumors around the trade deadline. I know this was like with their previous coach. I mean, he had like some tension with their main guys, but it seemed like they were willing to move off of Sabonis and Brogdon at the deadline. So you got to think maybe those opportunities are still there to move off of Brogdon, especially if they view LeVert as a primary, as he did take over a lot of those responsibilities later in the year. And then TJ Warren, of course, scorer, but he's been hurt a bit with the foot injuries. So yeah, they do have some decisions to make, but I do think that Rick will do some good for that team. And they both sides needed each other because Indiana was coming off firing their coach that didn't work after a year, and the situation in Dallas, like I said before, was just not working out for Rick. So yeah.
What's your thoughts on that, Nolan?
With Rick Carlisle, just kind of going on what you were saying about whether they're going to trade players or not. I was reading this article on basketballnews.com, and it's just like an interview with Rick Carlisle, and he's just talking about how they're in win now mode and all this stuff, and how this is his type of team. It seems like it's a job he really wanted, which, I mean, yeah, like you said, it makes sense. But one thing I thought was a little weird about it was just his contract. I think he's getting 4 years, $29 million or something. Doesn't really seem like that much money. I don't know. He's not still getting paid any money from Dallas, right? They just like mutually agreed to part ways, right?
I still think he's getting paid from Dallas.
Yeah, I think he is going to get paid still.
Okay. Yeah. I wasn't sure. It sounded like 4 years, 29 million. I was like, it seems a little low.
Seems a little low, but we'll see. Temp, how do you feel about Malcolm Brogdon coming onto the Knicks? A lot of rumors. A lot of Knicks fans are fans of his game. I am. I don't know how much he raises the ceiling. What are your thoughts?
I mean, for me, it's like I'm picky, but like it's also like he immediately is an upgrade over Alfred Payton, so like that's already a plus within itself, and that just adds 5 wins within itself. I mean, we saw this year a lot of games came down to like 1 or 2 possessions, and a lot of those possessions were squandered because Thibs just had to play Alfred to start the game. And someone like Malcolm Brogdon who can shoot, who can willingly pass, will willingly pass. And he has size too. He can play defense. He seems like a Thibs type of guard. So, it just seems like a really good match. I don't know if that will happen because Indiana probably still wants to evaluate what they have with him and their coaching staff and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I like the fit. He fits pretty well here. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what Indiana does. Where Rick Carlisle took the job, he recommended Jason Kidd to get the Dallas job, and the day after Jason Kidd gets the Dallas job, and Mark Cuban hires Nico Harrison, Nike executive, strong ties with a lot of players in the league, dealing with Nike. He makes a lot of decisions in Nike, and Cuban was able to snatch him over. I don't know how that's gonna ruffle the feathers because remember they had Donnie Nelson there for damn near 20 years, so it's gonna be interesting to see how that pans out. Uh, as far as Jason Kidd getting the job, I was never a fan of Jason Kidd coaching wise. You know his job in Brooklyn, the Bucks. As soon as he got out of there, they shot up with Mike Budenholzer, and we see now. You know, Mike Budenholzer is a good coach, but not an elite coach. We see that it's obvious now. Um, I don't know. How do you feel about the hires?
Um, man, if if you follow me, you know it's always a Jason Kidd slander zone on my Twitter feed. I've been a huge accuser of him messing up Giannis's form. Maybe he didn't have a direct correlation to it, but I think I read something about him telling Giannis to stop shooting when Giannis's form was actually good and it was a consistent motion. And ever since then, I mean, we've seen what happened to Giannis's shot. I mean, now it's probably preferred that he doesn't shoot, but he kind of does to keep the defenses honest. But I mean, just got to imagine what if Giannis never stopped consistently shooting when Jason Kidd told him to. And I mean, even when you look back, even before Budenholzer, that middle period between Kidd and Budenholzer, when they had like that, their assistant step in to be the interim after they fired Jason Kidd, they almost made the second round as a 7th seed, because they gave the baby Celtics without Kyrie and Hayward a run for their money in 7 games. So I mean,
Yeah, I remember.
we saw that, like, yeah, we saw that with a competent coach, like those guys can compete and stuff like that. So, and I mean, the Nets job, I mean, it feels like it was ages ago. It was a blur. So, I'm not really a fan of like Jason Kidd getting this job just based on like the on-court stuff, setting aside the off-court issues as well. So,
Yeah, sure. Nolan, what's your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same. I mean, I'm not thrilled about the hire for the basketball reasons. I'm even less thrilled with it for the off the field or off the court stuff. So, I mean, I don't know if that's the guy Dame wanted, and you think that's the best hire you can make, then yeah, definitely do that. But it's kind of getting some backfire.
Surprised they didn't upgrade the assistant. Mosley, I believe his name is. Luca's a very big fan of him.
Oh,
Been in the organization for a while. Just looked right over. Kind of crazy, and they gave another chance to Jason Kidd.
oh, my fault. I was thinking the Trailblazers there for a second.
I mean, we could switch over to the Blazers, right? Because they hired Billups. I thought that was a good hire. Seems like the world disagrees. It seems like he had an issue in '97 when he was a rookie in Boston. I had no idea that even happened, and I pride myself on like knowing a lot about the NBA. I think, and that just I never even heard about that ever. I don't know, but man, what do you think about that, guys? Because man, I don't know, man. Portland, Phillips, the future, how that's looking.
it's rough because, man, because like you said, like I didn't know about this either until like this past like week or so. I don't think anybody knew, and it's just like if you look into the details of it and the testimonies and all that stuff, I mean, it's pretty damning. I mean, they came out of it with a settlement, and I know a lot of people say that's not a really admission of guilt, but like kind of gives off those vibes, and especially if you saw the presser the other day,
Yeah,
it was rough.
yeah,
Mhm.
So like, I mean, and then you saw the quotes from Dame on Twitter. He was going at it with fans about like the hire. It's just a really bad situation over there altogether. And I mean, probably X's and O's wise, I don't know how good Chauncey is with that because he's just recently an assistant and now he's already a head coach. So we don't really know what his X's and O's are. For all we know, he could be a Fizdale S coach. Like, and if that's the case, then that's even worse for Dame. But I mean, it's an overall shit show over there. So I mean, yeah.
It's just weird because like by all reports, like it seems like that's the guy Dame wanted, and now that he seems to be getting a lot of the backlash from that hire, because it was like, I don't know if Dame knew any of that stuff or not going into it, but now it seems like fans are blaming him, and that seems like what's really bothering him now. And it's just ironic that them hiring the coach you wanted could ultimately be what ends up like breaking that relationship if he demands a trade.
And look, and Chris Haynes, who has a very strong relationship with Damian Lillard, and pretty much anything that Chris Haynes reports on Damian Lillard, you have to take a serious look at. And he said that Damian is frustrated with the situation, and I think he might ask for a trade when the offseason like really officially begins. I think he might ask out. He might ask out to the Knicks. He might just give a list. I only want to go to these teams. I don't know. Because his loyalty, right? It depends how it goes. But I'm just disappointed on how Fizdale never got a job. There's still a few jobs, but hopefully, I know
Fizdale just got hired, right?
Yeah, he got hired today by the
The
Lakers.
Lakers.
Oh damn! I really wanted him.
He had to hit up that LeBron connect to get that job. Right?
Oh yeah, for sure. That is like that just screams LeBron right there.
Yeah, I saw your tweet right before this pod, and I was about to like re-quote it with that in it, but I was like, I'm gonna talk to him in 2 minutes. I'll just wait.
What he said? I didn't even see it.
Oh, it was basically just I can't even. I have to look at it now.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. The like they still have a lot of questions on their roster on what they're gonna do. Like we were talking about it before, and like you can't Terry Scott, like he's a decent coach, but bro, you giving him Canner, Nurkic, Melo, and two small guards, and talk about the roster is not the reason why we have a 29th ranked defense. Like, come on.
Yeah, and Neil O'Shea hasn't done really a good job of like filling out this roster. Like his best moves were drafting Dame and CJ, and then he just like stopped making good moves after that. And he's been able to keep his job security just based on the fact that he drafted those two guys. So
yeah, man. And I was a big fan of that Gary Trent draft pick, and then he traded it away to give Norman Powell a $90 million contract. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see how that goes. I wanted to switch the conversation to the playoffs. The first series I wanted to talk about was Bucks and Hawks. Last night, the Hawks were able to tie up the series 2-2. Even with Trae Young going down, they were able to come as a collective and straight blow them out before Giannis was even hurt. Now Giannis hyperextended his knee. I saw the replay a million times. It looks like it looks bad. I don't know.
It looks way worse than what is actually diagnosed, but
yeah, it looks like he tore his ACL, right?
Yeah, but thankfully there's no structural damage, so
just a hyperextension, right?
He'll definitely. I don't think he'll be able to finish out this series, especially how hard they're going now. Like they're going hard on the court, man. And
yeah,
I don't know. How do you think the Giannis injury affects them now and even in the future? Because he averages 30 and 10, man, and that's a lot of production.
Yeah, Giannis was on a historic run. I mean, we've all seen the numbers now. He was like, he's basically, like you said, 30 and 10 a night. And like, he does so much for them. And he's carried a whole lot of their offense despite having no skill or no bag. And I mean, we've seen it. I mean, like, you just look, Chris Middleton, he has a good game every other night or so. And then him and Drew aren't allowed to have good games on the same day. So you're just limiting your options right there. You're hoping Bobby Portis goes off. You're hoping Bryn Forbes, Pat Connaughton, those guys go off. You're hoping PJ Tucker hits his corner threes. Like, you're just banking on so much without Giannis there. It's just so hard for me to really think that this team is going to even without Trae, like it's hard for me to see them winning this series without Giannis, even though Chris Middleton and Drew are supposed to be really good at least.
Definitely. Did you see that Capella might miss the next game too?
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
Yeah. Because I was feeling pretty much the same way you were. But I mean, I think they can at least squeeze out a win for the next game. And then like if Giannis gets healthy, they still like healthier enough to play something similar to like kind of what Embiid did. But yeah, I mean, I still think Atlanta's you probably have. I mean, it really depends on who gets healthy on which team, but
Yeah.
but it's really, I think Atlanta has the edge, considering I think Giannis has the most severe injury out of everybody.
Funny to see Cam Reddish have a good game, and all the Hawks fans talking about how he's better than RJ now.
Yeah.
it just shows RJ's doing something really well because RJ had 22 on his Olympic squad today. I mean, not today, but that day.
Yeah.
And the conversation immediately focused to a guy scoring, having his best game probably since high school, and immediately compared to RJ Barrett. So RJ Barrett has to be doing something well for him to be on the minds of Hawks fans immediately after that game.
I agree, and I like Cam. Cam comes from Duke. I do believe he has a bright future in the league. Maybe not as a star, but definitely as a productive player in the league. But y'all need to calm down. What I saw on my phone last night, god damn, nah, nah, nah. Interesting point. Like Middleton and Holiday, they don't usually have good games together, but they're gonna have to if they want to get past the Hawks. Because
Yeah.
Middleton, I believe it was game 4 or he exploded in the second half. I
Game
remember.
3.
Yeah, in game 3, he exploded in the second half. Looked like, this was the Middleton going forward, but has slowed down a little bit. Holiday's defense been decent throughout the playoffs. Offensively, he's been up and down. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, the Hawks, Okongwu, I believe he got drafted top 5, right? Top 5,
6.
top 6, top 6. Played really well last game. Capella got hurt playing garbage minutes. I don't understand what
This is the reason why I'm like, I wonder like what goes through these coaches' heads when they play their guys in garbage minutes, because it's like you never know what's gonna happen. You just seen Giannis get hurt in non-garbage minutes, so like, why even risk it? But I mean, to each their own with their coaching decisions. But
yeah, I mean, Tibbs does the same thing.
yeah, that's why I'm always scared when Thibs has these guys out when they're like, we're up 20 with like 2.5 to go or something.
Like, what is Julius doing out here still?
Yeah.
But I mean, I get to his point. Like, you don't want to let any wins slip away.
Yeah.
Playing for, especially like the second half of the season, where wins were so important for trying to get that 4 seed and everything. But I mean, that's been a trend throughout Tibbs' career. It's not like it was just this season.
For sure. Interesting to see what happens in that series. They play in a few hours, so I'm definitely gonna be. I mean, no. The Suns play. They play tomorrow. So yeah. The game that's gonna happen today, Suns and Clippers. Suns got a 3-2 lead, looking to end it off tonight. Gonna be interesting to see. PG-13 has stepped up since Kawhi has went down. Had a lot of key games. Last game he had 41 points, exploded. I was telling Nolan this, like, I think to get the best out of Paul George, he might just have to be your best player and then live with the ceiling with him as your best player. Like, it just is what it is. To get the absolute best, to get the most numbers you could get out of him, because when Russ gave him the keys, he had that MVP season. When he was in Indiana, he had all those good seasons. Struggled in the playoffs, but you know looked way better than what he did with Kawhi when he would disappear, didn't look too involved in the offense. I don't know how you feel about that, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, Pete, like I tweeted this out yesterday or night. I don't know if it was yesterday or I think it was the night of Paul George going off for those 41 points. But I said him and PG and Giannis, they earned their flowers this postseason. Both of them, they both got a lot of criticism in the past for not being able to do certain things or get over the hump or whatever the case may be. But yeah, they both showed out this postseason. I mean, Paul George, I mean, it seemed like every time the Clippers made a run, the Suns made a run to come back, then the Clippers would automatically make another run to like shut that down. And it was just like, it was all because of Paul George. And of course, like guys like Reggie Jackson, Pat Bev making key plays also. I mean, it's just an overall team effort and testament to Ty Lue being able to unlock this out of Paul George, because these guys didn't play like this under Doc Rivers. And I think we all know why, as we've seen with Doc Rivers coach teams over the years. They just don't have that mental edge to them. because he just doesn't make adjustments or he doesn't empower his guys. But with under Ty Lue, we've seen a different side of Paul George. He came into the season feeling more confident, and we heard it. And a lot of people clowned him for it, especially myself, because I was one of those people that's like, don't say anything, just let your game do the talking for you. And he's done that. So I mean, all credit to him for being able to carry this team without Kawhi and still have them in a position to possibly make the finals if all things go right for them.
Yeah, for sure. I think because with the game being in LA tonight, I was talking to Hamza about this a little bit before, but I really think that they'll win tonight and force a game 7. And anything can happen in a game 7. Chris Paul and Devin Booker haven't looked, great as of late, but at least Chris Paul. But I think that series can still go either way. The Suns obviously are favored just because coming down from 3-1 is just historically a challenge in its own right. But I think that the Suns have the more complete team without Kawhi.
Yeah, for sure. A big thing that's been going on this podcast, me and Nolan back and forth, is the emergence of Reggie Jackson. And see, I think he's a straight fraud, and we will see next year when somebody pays him the money on how good Reggie Jackson really is.
Hell, this dude is crazy.
Like Nolan's ready to give him a max contract.
I'm not giving him a max contract. Just relax. I like Reggie Jackson. I just don't think he's a fraud. The dude can ball.
Sam, what are your thoughts on the emergence of Reggie Jackson?
See, it's tricky because it's the playoffs, so he's proving it on the biggest stage, but it's also a smaller sample size compared to what we've seen over his career. But also we got to take into account the type of role that he's in and like how he's being utilized. And would he be utilized in that same fashion on this Knicks squad? Maybe, because he wouldn't have so many primary responsibilities, because you're essentially paying him to be a combo guard kind of in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's shown flashes of playmaking, and like I said, it came down to Ty Lue, putting him in the right position. And, Ty Lue's been great at putting all these guys in the right positions for them to succeed. And he did that with Reggie Jackson. So you got to think that maybe if he comes aboard on the Knicks, Dibs would have to look at some of this tape and see what type of role that he's playing and just try to put him in that same type of role here. I already said on the timeline that he's CAA and his agent is Aaron Mintz. He's basically a lock to come here if he leaves LA. That those are all the indicators that you need to know agency wise. Just the connections with CAA and who's his agent. He's basically a lock. So you got to prepare yourself now when you see the Woj notification.
And I think if you have Reggie Jackson, D Rose quickly, and you draft another guard in the draft, that you have enough talent in that guard rotation that anything's going to be an improvement over Elf. So as long as you're not giving this dude crazy money over multiple years or something, I see no harm in bringing him in.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
He's also 31, so I don't think he's going to be demanding that much money, but you never know these days. So
yeah, not many more chances to make that money, so he might be going for it all.
I see him cashing out this summer, and I had no idea that he was CAA and that the connection is tight within the Knicks organization, and his representation. That's going to be interesting. If he does come to the Knicks, I just hope they don't sign him for a 4-year, 50-year contract, something.
Yeah, I think with the guards, if they're not on the same timeline with our guys, I think they'll most likely be 2-year deals.
Yeah.
So I don't worry there. It's just maybe the amount that you're giving him probably concerns people, but I don't see the Knicks giving any older guard a serious long-term deal.
Any real quick, we're finished with the playoff talk. Real quick, any free agents this upcoming summer that you would like to see the Knicks sign, since we're on the topic?
I wouldn't mind Reggie Jackson. I also wouldn't mind Campaign.
Yeah.
Campaign has completely revitalized his career and his image around the league.
Yeah.
And we've seen like he's been able to control the tempo of playoff games without Chris Paul on the court. So I mean, for me, that matters. He can shoot. He can get to the rim at ease with his weird, herky jerky, pause and stop.
Kind of hezzy type.
Yeah, kind of hesitation movements and stuff like that. So I mean, and he can play make. Like we've seen him like dish out some crazy dimes while Chris Paul was out. He had that 29, 9, and 0 turnover game in game 2 in that win. So I mean, he's shown that he can do that. So I mean,
he's only 26, right?
yeah. So he's kind of on the timeline with our guys. So I'd like to see them go after him. Of course, Kyle Lowry, the main guys that Knicks Twitter likes to talk about a lot. Some guys I don't want to see on this team are DeMar DeRozan, Kelly Oubre, and
his agent is working hard. What?
Yeah,
man. Him and Dennis Schroeder, bro. Schroeder talking about he won $100 million, bro. Who's giving you that? China?
Yeah, it's either Shanghai or the Lakers, because the Lakers are gonna have no choice but to retain him if they want it. So,
crazy. I still think Kemba might end up there somehow.
I can see Kemba ending up on the Lakers somehow.
Like, I don't think he plays for OKC next year.
Maybe Simon Presti will hold you hostage.
Like, I mean, yeah, he did it with CP3 for a year, so
and Horford, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all the guys you don't want on the Knicks. DeRozan, which is I agree. DeRozan, dope player, a little underrated since leaving the Raptors, but his skill set just doesn't sit well with me next to RJ. I agree with that. Colin Sexton has been a name. I don't know if you're a big fan of his game. I don't know.
Not really, but I would probably end up talking myself into it just because he can like score at all 3 levels. It's just the defense that's really the concern. And he's not really that much of a playmaker. And some people may point to like, who did he have to play make for in Cleveland, really? But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the front office like had enough faith in it to make it go out and do that move, I would talk myself into it, just because they seem to have a pretty good grasp on, the league and like the players within it. But if it was if you have to trade for him and then pay him a huge contract, it makes it really tough when you're not really sure what you're getting yet.
Yeah, it depends. It depends. One more name, Kendrick Nunn. A lot of people I see it's like 75%, 75% of people saying no, which is, I don't know if he'll get paid that much, and he has his skill set. He's able to attack, able to shoot the 3, good handles, be able to play the pick and roll with Randall. I don't know. Be able to start and come off the bench. If they're able to get a good number, I'm more comfortable with them investing in somebody like Kendrick Nunn than investing in somebody like Reggie Jackson.
I'm not a fan of Kendrick Nunn.
Yeah. I brought that up to Brad. He just immediately shot that down. It was not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Kendrick Nunn guy myself. I mean, he's been like, besides the off-court stuff, even on court, there's been like some times where he's gotten benched throughout the year. So, I mean, kind of inconsistent, but yeah, I'm not really the biggest fan of him. So
yeah, and Miami, like, speaking about Miami, they're gonna have to. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do, right? Because they didn't go for Harden, and it looks like that it looked evident that, especially without, because we don't know what Oladipo is gonna do during the offseason. They're in a little bit of a blender. Don't know what's gonna happen over there. They have some key moves to make. Definitely, for sure. Yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to speak about. Shout out to Sam for coming on to the pod. Make sure to check out his podcast. Make sure to check him out on Twitter. Everything will be in the description on YouTube. Make sure to follow me and Nolan on Twitter, and the Corner 3 Pod on Twitter as well, and the website where we'll be having articles and all our episodes on there as well.
Yes, and thanks a lot for coming on, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, guys. No doubt.